Monday on another beautiful day in November. What the hell is going on with this weather in November? My Ash Gregoire Chambre de Nissan Maxima tells me right now it's 16 degrees, and as you can see out the windows here, it is sunny. Laissez-les bon temps rouler, my friends. Yes, it is just another money day in the month of November, weather speaking, and let's start. My golf season is over. My golf season is over. I was going to play today. I was going to go out and play today. I had an invite from a couple of buddies. There are a couple of clubs that are still open. They got the flags in the holes and everything else. But my season came to an end on Saturday, and I got in a lot of golf. You're not going to be surprised when I tell you I played a lot of golf this summer. And it even started earlier than usual. I started my golf season in Newport Beach, California, in late March into early April. So I thought for sure I was going to crack the threshold of 150 rounds played inside a calendar year as a proud Canadian who lives 6 months in winter, that I was going to get 150 rounds in. No one's crying for me today that I know I did not get in 150 rounds of golf. I fell short of my goal. I actually played fewer rounds this summer than I did last year. But all that to say, it was just another great year. I hope some of you got into golf, and I hope some of you got bit by the bug as I have. And, whatever got you into it, Tiger Woods got me into golf. It's one of those things that I wish I got into when I was a lot younger. My parents played golf, always public. I don't come from country club money. I don't come from that world, right? And I come from upper duplex world. That's my upbringing. But nevertheless, when it comes to playing golf, my dad would go out and he'd go to the driving range. Him and my mom would go to Meadowbrook or something like that and play golf. And my dad would say, "Come, let's go." And I'd always look at him like he was from outer space. When I was a kid, playing golf is something guys that weren't athletes did, right? That was, honest to God, that was my perspective with golf. They were out of shape, ugly, poorly dressed. This is not the sport for me attitude. And that's how, I grew up taking in golf. Here I am at 44 years old, wishing that I would trade in all my minor hockey experience, all the time I wasted playing soccer for Ville Saint Laurent, and instead pouring my energy into the game of golf. But that's what happens, right, when you get bit by the bug, because there is no other game I'd rather play than knocking around with my friends over 18 holes. Every day is a new challenge, and especially for someone like as feeble-minded as I am, right? Look at this. So I bought this today. This is a $25 celebration coupon. It's a $25 celebration coupon, and I bought this today at the gas station. What up, Joel? Joel got out this weekend, said it was crazy. It was crazy, man. I played Saturday. I birdied 18 to shoot 72. I think it was my lowest round of the summer. I think I might have a 71. I'm not exactly sure. But listen, I mean, the weather is just unbelievable. I think the best October into November I've ever experienced in my lifetime, and I don't want it to end. And it's 16 degrees, and it's sunny, and it's windy, like who knows what outside, but who cares, man? But the winter storm is coming. Bad weather is around the corner. So let's not dwell on what's to come. Let's actually stay in the present. Let's talk about where we are and enjoying the bright ball of sun. And we don't have to wear winter coats, and there's no snow on the ground. I don't have my winter tires on yet. I just want to stay present. And stay present, it means I bought this $25 celebration. This $25. And I know I'm not going to win anything. Like every time I buy a Lotto Max, a Lotto Quebec ticket, or I enter a 50-50 draw, I always believe I'm going to win. I always believe. And this is Le Gros Lot of $5 million and five $1 million prizes. So I walked into the store. They had this in the background. They had balloons and fanfare all around it. And I said, "Monsieur, voulez-vous un billet?" And I looked at it. I got a big sucker written on the stamp on my forehead that said, "Oui, I will buy it." So I went into the store for the purpose of getting one thing and one thing only. And I left there with a bill of $46 and this $25 ticket. But I don't buy this for myself, I'm not a big lottery player. I don't believe in the lottery. I think it's a sucker's game. And I don't really play it. But, the ladies, they like playing slot machines. They play the Lotto Max. And, You can't win if you don't buy a ticket, right? So that's where I am with this on this happy Monday. I'm feeling great today. I hope you had a good weekend. You see in the comments our boy Joel Sanderson. He got out there. He played some golf this weekend. I hope you got out there. You got to play some golf, and maybe you're going out there today. You weekend warriors, maximize every plus degree temperature you can. The Montreal Canadiens continue to maximize every single game they play this season. What an unbelievable performance again on Saturday night. Granted, full disclosure, I didn't really watch most of the game. I was at this mega complex in Blainville on Saturday. This mega complex off the 15 in Blainville. What do they have going there? Axe throwing, indoor golf carts, indoor go-karting, indoor axe throwing, bowling, laser quest, all this fun stuff. So we were at this mega complex. It was my nephew's 16th birthday, and we were celebrating. We did some small pin bowling. Boy, oh boy, small pins not for me. Small pins, full disclosure, everybody, is not for me. I throw the ball at 10,000 miles an hour, like 2 pins fall. I didn't get 1 strike. I don't think I broke 80. I played 2 games. All this to say, small pins is not for me. So I didn't get to watch a lot of the Montreal Canadiens game. They kind of had it on in the bar background where we were, where I was trying to be a good bowler. So I did see a couple of things in that hockey game. In particular, and I want to talk about Josh Anderson's hit on Alex Pietrangelo in the second half of the third period on Saturday night in a game the Canadiens would lose in regulation, but a game, again, that provided ample entertainment. You got primetime performances from your primetime players, as Nick Suzuki now has 15 points and 8 goals. Cole Caulfield with 8 goals and 14 points. And Kirby Dach, the tripod, the third leg of that number one line, has 2 goals and 10 points. The Montreal Canadiens, guys, have 34 goals scored collectively as a team this season. Caulfield and Suzuki have 16 of them. Add Kirby Dach, that's 18 goals, more than 50% of the offense and the goal scoring this season has come from the number one line, which leads me to the question today is it time to share the wealth a little bit? Like Sean Monahan has more points than Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson ain't getting any points in the next 2 games. The NHL suspended him on Sunday. We'll talk about that in a second. But the Montreal Canadiens, who ranked 23rd in the overall NHL standings, continue to play good, stay in the fight, competitive hockey. And look, if you're a sports fan, if you're a fan of the team, if you have tickets or you like cheering this team on, if you want to go to games, if you want to take your kids to a Canadiens game, at least you don't have to worry about, oh my God, I'm going to a game. The Canadiens are going to sleepwalk through this game. They're going to be bad. They're going to be boring. Is Cole Caulfield going to score? Is Nick Suzuki going to show up? Is the goaltending going to be NHL caliber? You don't have to, all that stuff has been taken off the table for you now. The Montreal Canadiens in the early goings of this NHL season continue to defy expectations, even though they are 23rd in the overall NHL standings this morning. They continue to stay in the fight. That first period they had on Saturday was fantastic. A little bit of a sloppy kind of mess, dog's breakfast in the second period. They got back at it in the third, tried to stay competitive, made it a fight. But every time the Canadiens would score, Vegas would quickly reply. So this is what we talk about, the in the fight attitude that Martin St. Louis has instilled inside his Montreal Canadiens, and so far so great. You want to go to a game, you want to be entertained, you want to have fun, you want to maybe see something you haven't seen yet, and that's Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki. Undeniable, a very potent, credible number one line that Martin St. Louis has. But in all honesty, as I keep telling you, I define this Canadian season under Martin St. Louis as kind of a figure it out kind of year. Figure out the chemistry between Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, which is clearly undeniable at this point. Figure out where Josh Anderson kind of slots in. What do they have in Kirby Dach? What do they have in Jake Evans? What role do you see Jake Evans kind of flourishing in? Is Christian Dvorak going to be part of the short term or even perhaps part of the long term? I think we learned it's maybe more the latter than it is the former with Christian Dvorak. But my point remains, we're figuring things out together on the fly. Who goes with who, and why don't they go with certain people? So you've seen Kirby Dach, Nick Suzuki, and Cole Caulfield be borderline electrifying every time they're out there on the ice. But what about Juraj Slafkovsky? Juraj Slafkovsky, who scored his third goal on Saturday, and were you like me, where your heart maybe skipped a beat when you caught Juraj Slafkovsky? Look, clearly the guy was in agony. Here's what happened for me on Saturday night. I don't see the fact that Slafkovsky blocks a shot. The only thing I see when I look up to the monitor on Saturday night ugh, excuse me, is Slavkovsky grimacing in pain, laboring, has to be helped. And now I see him walking through the tunnel. I'm like, oh my God, what did I just miss? What just happened here? This is worst case scenario. And then they show us the replay, blocks the shot. You're like, okay. And then ultimately you see him back there, back out there, scores a goal, his third of the season, and looking very, very improved. A guy who is getting comfortable and more comfortable with every shift, with every game. Like, I like the fact, like, you're seeing the hockey IQ. You're seeing glimpses of why the Montreal Canadiens management decided to bypass Shane Wright and go with the big-bodied Slovakian winger named Juraj Slafkovsky. And that, is a interesting point because, when we talk about Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, how well they're doing, guess what? Kirby Dach is the youngest member of that line, and Juraj Slafkovsky is younger than all of them. So I want to keep that in mind when we start talking about Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, because are you watching these games? Are you watching this team play like on Saturday night thinking, okay, the goals are going to dry up? Nick Suzuki, was he going to finish with 100 points? What's Cole Caulfield going to do? Score 50 goals this season? Are both of those things going to happen, right? And Jake Allen, again, not at his best, not with his crispest form in the loss to Vegas on Saturday night, which, leads me to think that, while the team is playing exciting hockey, I do ultimately believe in the law of averages, and I do ultimately believe that, Nick Suzuki, who will be a good player, I don't think we're going to be talking about a guy that's going to have 100 points. I don't know we're going to be talking about Cole Caulfield having 50 goals this season. So I'm still with that. The Canadiens, it's fine. They're 23rd in the overall standings. Nick Suzuki has 8 goals. Sam Montembeault's playing well. Cole Caulfield's electrifying. He's playing very good hockey in all 3 zones, showing his playmaking ability, showing his vision, all this stuff. It's all good. It's all good. I am not here telling you to worry about the Canadiens' win percentage, the point percentage that they're getting so far in the early season. They're 23rd in the overall standings. I do believe this dog days are coming. Right now, they're playing with a lot of adrenaline. They're playing with ultimately all this confidence. And I do think, and you go back, and we talked about this during this preseason or just before the preseason got going, was you keep telling pro athletes that they can't do something. You keep doing that. The highway is littered with dead bodies of people who said you can't do that because you're not good enough. A lot of these guys at this level, you know this, I know this, they thrive, they feed off. This is the gasoline they need to get the fire to an inferno. You tell them they can't do something, they rise to the challenge more often than not. And I think the Montreal Canadiens are guilty of reading the press clippings, of reading what the experts had to say before the season began, and basically wrote them off, that Connor Bedard was as good as a Montreal Canadien, more or less, because they were going to have the highest percentage of landing the number 1 overall pick. So far, the Canadiens have defied those expectations, and we are all here for it. The way they're playing, like, I don't hear really anybody talking about Connor Bedard sweepstakes and how the Canadiens are blowing it. No, au contraire, mon frere. You know what I'm hearing? Wow, you see that goal scored by Nick Suzuki? How many goals is Caulfield going to score this year? What about Jake Allen? Man, what a leader this guy is. These are the storylines that I'm picking up from Hab fans when we're talking Canadiens hockey the day after a win or a loss. So the Canadiens got 3 games this week. It starts tomorrow. They're on the road in Detroit. The Red Wings coming off a 3-2 win over the New York Rangers. Detroit looking pretty good. They've won 3 in a row. The Canadiens also have the struggling Vancouver Canucks, who were no doubt a bit of an embarrassment. They got Vancouver at home, home in Montreal on Wednesday night at 7:30. That's a 7:30 puck drop. The Canucks come to Montreal 3-4-3 in their last 10 games. And, of course, what's going on in the Metropolitan Division. The Canadiens will get a look at Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins again on Bell Center Ice Saturday night. The Penguins losing to the Kraken on Saturday in a 3-2 final. Sidney Crosby scored. He's got 6 goals, but the Penguins cannot get goaltending at all. They've lost 7 in a row, and it's not so much like, okay, they're losing hockey games. They're still not worse than Columbus. The Blue Jackets are the worst team in hockey, and they finally got their first power play goal of the season. I think that came on Saturday night. So up until Friday, right through Friday of last week, Columbus had 0 power play goals until they got one on the weekend. So Columbus, the worst team in hockey. Ottawa is the worst team in the Atlantic. The Pittsburgh Penguins have lost 7 in a row after they lost to Seattle on Saturday night, but it's the manner in which the Penguins are losing, coughing up double-digit leads late in games last week. And boy, oh boy, I don't know what's going on, but we'll see whether or not the Canadiens get the Penguins at the right time or the wrong time. But you know it so far. If there's one thing the Canadiens have done very well, And Martin St. Louis is here to remind you, they are in it every single game. And like we talked about in the aftermath of the Canadiens losing to Tampa Bay in the Stanley Cup final in 5 games in that series, you cannot fairly ask for anything more as a fan than your pro athletes playing for your favorite team, giving everything they have and leaving it all out there. Shea Weber did it, Carey Price did it, and right now you're seeing like Martin St. Louis and the Canadiens roster don't give a flying you-know-what about where they draft next summer. They don't give a blop, nothing. Not 1 ounce of care. Not 1 ounce. Martin St. Louis, his roster have tunnel vision, and that's the way it should always be. Tunnel vision. They got those horse blinders on. They want to go out every night and blow away the opposition. Every night. If the Canadiens can go 82-0, every player on Martin St. Louis team signs up to go 82-0. Let's not get those messages mixed. You, the fan, me, the fan, the observer, the guy who works in the media, yes, you and I, we can talk about Connor Bedard and the Canadiens. They have to finish in the top 8. I believe that. If they land and draft outside the top 8 because they were too competitively good, that's a mission failed this season. Full stop. I think we can all agree there. Hit me up in the comments if you disagree. But if they land with the 12th, 13th, 14th overall selection in the draft in the summer of 2023, no, we're going to have a problem. So we're not going to talk about that right now. But that's management. That's what I talk about. That's what you talk about with your friends. That's what we talk about together. Martin St. Louis, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Brendan Gallagher, the boys, all those guys, they care about beating Detroit and beating the pants off them in Detroit on Tuesday night. And then following that up with a win over Vancouver and then turning a 2-game win streak into a 3-game win streak by beating the Penguins on Saturday night. That's what the players are thinking. That's what they're tackling. Different story for you and I. So we're not here right now to talk about, the balance and where the Canadiens are in the balance of power. So interesting week ahead for the Montreal Canadiens. With the balance of power with some good teams, streaky teams in Detroit, losing streaky teams, and what happens between now and Saturday night when the Canadiens match up with the Pittsburgh Penguins, who right now, after Saturday's loss, the Penguins have lost 7 in a row. Week 9 of the National Football League. Do you enjoy Sunday? Do you enjoy the NFL when Josh Allen loses to Zach Wilson and the New York Jets? Do you enjoy watching Aaron Rodgers look terrible out there on the field against the worst defense in football and lose straight up on the money line to Detroit? Like, do you enjoy watching Brady and the Bucs struggle, that they need no timeouts and heroics from Tom Terrific with 50 seconds to go in the fourth quarter to beat what is a very bad Rams team? I mean, I'm having, a struggle talking about how much I'm enjoying the NFL with so many of my favorite players playing like garbage, hot garbage. Aaron Rodgers looks terrible. Aaron Rodgers arm angles his release, these spinny balls, Sammy Watkins dropping passes, Alan Lazard out of sorts, Matt LaFleur throwing his hands up, Rodgers throwing his hands up in disgust. Rodgers after the game, did y'all hear Rodgers talking about, hey, just chill, just calm down? No, you have not. I mean, I'll never be the guy that tells you that a pro athlete's heart is not in it, that the care level is a non-existent. This guy picking up A&W cheeseburgers at 10:45 in the morning. Way to go. You do you, brother. If there's one thing I can't do is fast food cheeseburgers before 11 a.m. My body's not wired for it. But nevertheless, I'm watching Aaron Rodgers out there with these twisty arm angles, these side balls, spinny balls. Chemistry is completely off. Listen, I'm no quarterback whisperer here. I never played high-level football, not for a second, but I know a good quarterback from a bad quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers is a bad quarterback this year, a very bad quarterback this year, as a matter of fact. And I see no reason to think that, a couple of wins here or there is going to turn the fortunes of the Packers around. I don't see it. They got the Cowboys at home. They got their next 2 games at home. Are we talking about a team that's going to be 3-8? 3-8 after 11 weeks? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. So that's what's going on. Monday Night Football wraps up tonight with the Baltimore Ravens at New Orleans. I like the New Orleans Saints on the money line, getting a little bit of value there. Also, Lamar Jackson over 59.5 rushing yards by the Ravens quarterback. So a couple of best bets to get you going to wrap up Week 9 of the National Football League. And look, full stop. My picks against the spread in Week 9 were dog's breakfast. They were terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. My Mizoja picks, I had the Vegas Raiders minus 1.5, thinking strongly that this team would rebound with pride after getting shut out the week before. They do nothing. They lose on the road to Jacksonville and cough up a lead and lose to Sunshine and check down Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Green Bay Packers lose to the worst defense in football. Aaron Rodgers with 3 interceptions, 2 in the red zone. My God, what the hell was going on there? And dummy me thinking P.J. Walker and the Carolina Panthers were going to do anything of substance against Joe Burrow, who week in and week out is running for his life, can't stay on the ground. But who cares? You've got Joe Mixon. You know how many touchdowns Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals finished with yesterday? 5. 5 touchdowns, 4 on the ground, 1 in the air. And the Cincinnati Bengals, without Jamar Chase, looking pretty good against what was, for a moment in the sun anyway, a competitive-looking Carolina Panthers team. And before we let you go, you guys see what's going on in Boston with the Boston Bruins? What up, Steph Howard? How's it going? Cole Caulfield and Suzuki, a small sample size, are the best duo I have seen with the Habs in close to 25 years. Hard to disagree, brother. I mean, we're talking about combined 29 points. 29 points. And 16 goals. The Canadians collectively have scored 34 goals this season. 2 guys have a combined 16. From Bills Mafia. No doubt, losing to the New York Jets. Did you know the Buffalo Bills are 0-2 inside their division this year? Whoa. Yeah, they lost to the Dolphins and ultimately lost it yesterday to the New York Jets. The only other team that I see with a bad inside your division record that is still competitive are the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are 0-3 against the AFC North this year, but still set in second place to Baltimore, who I think lose in New Orleans. Give me the Saints over the Ravens on the money line to wrap up Week 9 of the National Football League. And before I say goodbye, I want to talk quickly about what's going on in Boston with the Boston Bruins. You know, I like to have a lot of fun in my car, in the car with Star, my Ash Gregoire Shaman and Nissan Maxima. But if I could get serious for a second, I only want to get serious because I'm a diehard fan of the National Hockey League. I love the NHL and have since I can remembering. And it's just disappointing, to put it mildly, to see what's happened in hockey from Logan Mailloux to Hockey Canada and now Mitchell Miller, the American defensive prospect who was drafted in the 4th round by the Arizona Coyotes. They released him. He went to the United States Hockey League last year and just lit that league and tore it apart. He had over 80 points, had close to 40 goals. He finished with 39 goals. This is a defenseman we're talking about here, and set USHL records in points and goals by a defenseman. But if you don't know the backstory of Mitchell Miller, when he was 14, he was a bully and an out-and-out racist with a special needs African-American child, and just, made this poor kid's life an absolute living hell. So much so, charges were filed. He was found guilty in the state of Ohio, and so much so that, once the Arizona Coyotes dug a little deeper into this despicable behavior from Mitchell Miller, they let him go. And the Boston Bruins decided to offer him a contract. So much so that apparently they never cleared it with the NHL. So much so that Gary Bettman came out and said, I don't give a bleep what you do with this kid. He is not NHL eligible. And the NHL released a very strongly worded statement. Well, as we found out as time went by on the weekend when the Bruins announced the signing of Mitchell Miller to a contract, and then the NHL came out with their statement saying, he's not NHL eligible. You got to clear this with us before you ever make a determination about this guy playing in the NHL. That Cam Neely and Sweeney and everybody else in Boston decided that Mitchell Miller is no longer a Boston Bruin. So less than 24 hours after they gave this guy a contract, they walked it back. Why? Because Cam Neely and the Boston Bruins never reached out to the victim's family. Mitchell Miller, in a statement on the record, never even apologized, never used the words "I'm sorry" to explain his behavior. And I'm not here sitting on any type of high horse. I'm really trying not to, virtue signal or anything like that. there's been nothing on the record that we have seen, and I did a lot of reading about this guy over the weekend, that shows anybody that he did a lot of the right things and did a lot of took the right steps in order to right a lot of wrongs. He never reached out to the family, and who knows how, lawyers get involved and everything else. The Bruins never reached out to the family. There was never any sort of apology from the accused to the victim, and the Bruins did all of this and still decided to go public with the contract. And then when Cam Neely was asked about it, he admitted that the team never did their due diligence, never spoke to the victim's family to find out how they would feel about this and whether or not the accused has spoken to the victim's family. None of this has happened. And Cam Neely admitted it. Cam Neely was asked about the vetting process and said he's disappointed in it. What is Cam Neely's job in Boston? Explain that to me, please. Explain to me how this works. So, it just shows me that, what I think what a lot of us already are very aware of, that it's a very old school culture in hockey, and that I don't know that there's a lot of vetting, a lot of due diligence that goes into this. Maybe they speak to a couple of guys, and now I'm speculating, right? And I'm going to get down this slippery slope, and I don't want to do that. But ultimately, I'm just going to stop there. The Bruins realized through the backlash that what they did was dumb, so much so that Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, Nick Foligno is a newer member of the Bruins, but the old guard, the first ballot Hall of Famer, Patrice Bergeron, they don't stand for this shit, and they don't want anything to do with that type of culture. And the Bruins are trying to build something and have tried to build something special, and the dynamic inside their organization and their management goes against the grain and really upset a lot of people. Hockey is, as I finished saying, is a very protected, what happens in the room stays in the room kind of culture. You know how serious things have to be for players to come out and speak against the team and speak against the decision management has decided to make? I mean, that right then and there. Brad Marchand, who's no stranger to being guilty of bad judgment in this guy's pro career, for these guys to come out and say, whoa, what the hell are you doing to this organization? What are you guys doing? That's all you need to know. And that's a big reason, I believe anyway, the Bruins decided to walk back the Mitchell Miller decision that they announced on the weekend. So that's kind of where we are with the Boston Bruins right now with Vegas as some of the best teams and the two best teams in the NHL, who, by the way, I'm also here to tell you now that my days of laughing at the Toronto Maple Leafs have come to an end. I am no longer laughing at the Leafs. Not this week, anyway. After, boy, did they survive that pressure test. They beat Philadelphia. Then they took it to the Boston Bruins. And then what did they do? They gave up a 1-0 lead to Carolina and came back and beat them 3-1. And by the way, Austin Matthews is hot again. So, and their two goaltenders are hurt. And they got the guy from the Marlies who was 6-0 coming up to play goal. That one thing we can still laugh at. That was arguably the most predictable thing to come from any team in the offseason. That Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov were not going to stay healthy. Now both guys are hurt, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, with the pressure of the world on them, are relying on an American Hockey League goaltender. So there you go. Happy Monday, you guys. Looking forward to a brand new week. What else do we got here? Sean Perry, what it do, baby? He bleeds. He wants to talk about Brendan Gallagher? Yeah, let's talk about Brendan Gallagher. Lots of stupidity around him. He comes to work with a lunch pail, takes a beating game in and game out, and well, I don't know what stupidity is you're talking about, Sean, because I'm seeing what you're seeing too when it comes to Brendan Gallagher. And that's one thing I think we actually nailed here in this channel when we spoke about Brendan Gallagher in the offseason, that if there was one guy that got the benefit of your doubt, it was going to be Brendan Gallagher for everything that he lifted on the ice in the Canadiens playoff run, and the fact that last year really was a terrible year, that I think it took as much out of them physically as it did mentally, that Brendan Gallagher was going to be the guy that was going to get to work and be the Brendan Gallagher that got the contract from Marc Bergevin. And like Sean's saying, I think you're seeing this guy work his butt off. And I'm here for it. Shows you the character, the leadership, the professionalism that Brendan Gallagher brings game in and game out. So fun week ahead, no doubt. Monday Night Football tonight, Baltimore, New Orleans. Canadians in Detroit tomorrow at 7, home to Vancouver Wednesday. So, yeah, back-to-back for the Canadians Tuesday and Wednesday, and they wrap up this week with a game Saturday against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Congratulations to the Montreal Alouettes, who led wire to wire as 2.5-point favorites and beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats, punching their ticket to Toronto Sunday at 1 o'clock in Toronto in the East Final. Winner moves to the Grey Cup. You got BC and Winnipeg in the West. But yeah, Alouettes defense, Beverett, Jones, absolutely ball hawking, killers on defense. Trevor Harris, very good with the ball. 1 touchdown, 1 INT. As a nice to see. The Montreal Alouettes, by the way, if you weren't aware of this, had not won a playoff game since 2014 and were 0 for 7 in the last 7 playoff games with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So yeah, great job by the Owls. Great job by Danny Machocha, who came in and fired Kahari Jones and fired Baron Miles, turned this team around. The Owls were 2-6 at one point this season. They finished 9-9. So yeah, they've been on an absolute heater. Looking forward to seeing what they have up their sleeves Sunday at 1 o'clock when they take on the Toronto Argonauts in the East Final. And, of course, the Houston Astros. Houston Astros knock off the Philadelphia Phillies. Dusty Baker, at 73 years young, claims his first ever World Series. That was awesome to see. And Houston, listen, if you're coming at me talking about, well, did they cheat? Did the Astros cheat this time? You know what that says to me? I don't think you watched the World Series. I understand the Houston Astros, were guilty of cheating. Guess what, everybody? They weren't. Lucas Giolito of the Chicago White Sox basically said it last week that, like it or not, guys, everybody, more or less everybody was cheating. And the Astros got caught, and the Astros did it better than everybody else. And that's why you saw kind of this muted response from players, right? And I honestly think that if you're, the Astros cheated, I don't think you were watching the World Series, guys. The World Series was effing fantastic from beginning to end. You had drama. You had superstars delivering superstar performances. You had a wild card team. You had an underdog story there. You had all of that. And the Houston Astros claimed their second World Series title. So baseball season is over. NBA regular season in full effect. NHL regular season now into its second month. And now we're less sleep, but at least it's brighter at 6 a.m. Thank God for that. And it's midnight at 4:30. So get ready to have fun and get your dinner plans ready for 4:45 tonight, because that's where we are as we rolled our clock back. So that's it. I think I've covered everything we needed to cover from a jam-packed weekend in sports. What a fun weekend in sports, made better, no doubt, by the delicious weather in Montreal. Don't forget, you can support me by supporting my sponsors, by shopping for all your pets' needs at littlebearonline.com. In the car 10 is our promo code. K-Stop Gaspar Highway 138 in Karawage. Of course, good to see so many people in the comment section making K-Stop Gaspar your prime destination for premium fuel at discount prices and the best snack selection in the snack game. Point Final, Highway 138 in Karawage. It's right over the Mercier Bridge. All right, my friends, we'll see you later this week. Don't forget, watch, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Tell all your friends about it. Let's grow this channel. Boom!